Sans Maths channel. I'm now answering question number 4 from the June 2024. This is the replacement paper or the regional paper for Pure Mathematics P2 from Edexcel International A-Level. And here we have a question about binomial expansion. So it says, find the first 4 terms in ascending powers of x of the binomial expansion of 3 plus 2x all to the power of 6, giving each coefficient in simplest form. So we're going to use the NCR method, which is applicable if the power is an integer and positive integer, which is the only type of question you would face in a P2 paper. So basically, what we have to do here is we have to think about the expansion of this. So when you expand this, if we study the pattern of expansions, you'll realize that there's some basic main coefficients that something has when you raise it to the power of 6, when you have a binomial raised to the power of 6. And those are found using Pascal's triangle, which we have a shortcut for in our calculator, which is called the NCR button, right? So when you want to expand something like this, we want the first 4 terms. We're going to start off with a bracket for the NCR, a bracket for one of the terms, and a bracket for the second term, binomial. So here I'm going to put the first term, and here I'm going to put the second term in the brackets. And the highest, the power of the expansion, which is the power of 6, goes on the top. And then you start off, if we're going in ascending powers of x, we start off with 0 here. And if we're going with ascending powers of x, then the bracket which has the x in it has to start off with 0. And the other bracket has to have basically the same power as the expansion. These two will always add up to this 6. And then for the second term, we just start increasing this bottom number by 1. So we have 6c1 basically. And here we have 3 to the power of 5. This goes down by 1. And 2x to the power of 1. This goes up by 1. Notice they add up to 6. And then for the third term, similarly, we have 6 and 2. And we have 3 to the power of 4. This goes down by 1. And this is going up by 1. 2x to the power of 2. And finally, because we only want 4 terms, this is the first, second, third, and the fourth term. That's going to be 6 and a 3. And you're going to have 3 to the power of 3. It's going down by 1. And this is going to go up by 1. So 2x to the power of 3. This goes up by 1. This goes down by 1. They add up to 6 every time, which is the highest power. And then we can then get our answers. Now 6c0 is 1. Okay, NC0 will always be 1, whatever number is there. 3 to the power of 6 is, let's work that out. So we have 3 raised to the power of 6 gives us 729. And anything raised to the power of 0 is 1. So the first term is 729. And then we have 6c1, which is going to give you 6 times 3 to the power of 5. So that's 3 to the power of 5, which is 243. 243 times 2x to the power of 1, which is 2x. So we can work out what that is. We have 243 times 6 times 2, which gives us 2,916. 2,916. This is x. And then the third term, you're going to have 6c2. Now, to find out what 6c2 is, I'm going to put 6, shift, and then this division button. That brings up the NCR. So 6c2. That will give us the main coefficient, which is going to be 15. That's 15 times, and 3 to the power of 4, which is 81, times 2x squared, which is 4x squared. Don't forget to square both the numbers in the bracket. So that's 15 times 81 times 4. So you have 15 times 81 times 4. That gives you 4,860. 4,860, but that's x squared. And then finally, you have 6c3. So 6c and 3. That gives us 20. So you have 20 times 3 cubed, which is 27, times 2x cubed, which is, that's 2 cubed is 8, and x cubed is x cubed. So you have 20 times 27 times 8. So we've got 20 times 27 times 8, which leaves us with 4,320, 4,320, and that's x cubed. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. So we have completed part A. So we can say that 3 plus 2x, 3 plus 2x raised to the power of 6 is going to give us 729 plus 2,916x plus 4,860x squared plus 4,320x cubed. There is also an alternative way of expanding this using the formula which is normally or has to be used in the methods involving a P4 where you have negative and or integer powers, right? But when you have a question like this where there's not a number, like it's not 1 plus something x, it's going to be a bit more complicated. So I would just stick to this method, to be honest, when I'm dealing with a question like this in P2. Just use the NCR method. It's very easy. And setting out in this way makes everything neat and clear for you when you're checking your answers, and also for the examiner when he's marking your paper. So I would always suggest that you do something like this rather than writing them next to each other. Sometimes it gets confusing. All right, so now it says, hence find the coefficient of x squared in the expansion of 2x squared minus 1 over 6 times 3 plus 2x to the power of 6. Okay, so what I'm going to do here, I'm going to write this as 2x squared minus 1 over 6x times, and I'll write the expansion of this. So 729 plus 2,916x plus 4,860x squared plus 4,320x cubed. We have to find the coefficient of x squared. So the coefficient of x squared is going to be found when you multiply the x squared term with the constant term here. So if we think about the coefficient of x squared, it's going to have, when you do 2 times 729, that will be one of the coefficients, and nothing else. When you multiply with these, it will give you x cubed, x, that will be x to the power 4, x to the power of 5. But when you multiply minus 1 over 6x, if you multiply minus 1 over 6x with the x cubed term, all right, that's also going to give you x squared, because the x and the x cubed will cancel out. So when you have, so you're going to have minus 1 over 6x, minus 1 over 6, just considering the coefficient. So minus 1 over 6 multiplied by 4,320, that will give you the coefficient of x squared, another coefficient of x squared, because that will give you an x squared term, because x cubed will cancel with the x. And there's nothing else. When I multiply this by this, that will be x in the denominator. Here you'll have a constant. Here you will have an x term. Here you'll have an x squared term. So those are the two ways of getting x squared terms. So now we can just work out what the answer is going to be. You're going to have 2 times 729 minus 1 over 6 times 4,320, which gives you 738. So it's asking you just the coefficient. So there's your answer. Don't write 738x squared, right? Because they're asking only for the coefficient. It says, if it said find the x squared term, then you would write, if it said find the term in x squared, you'd write 738x squared. But as it's asking you just for the coefficient, be careful not to lose any marks. As one of my students did in one of his exams, when he was asked to write down the coefficient of x squared and x cubed, and he wrote down x squared and x cubed with him, and he lost 2 marks, which cost him an A star in his exam. That he was 1 mark away from A star, and they took off 2 marks for that, which was pretty cruel. But so please don't give them an excuse to take any marks from you, right? If they say the coefficient, just write the number without the x part of it, right? If it said find the term in x squared, then you write it as 738x squared. All right, so there's the answer to this question. All right, and that concludes this question. A little note here says hence. That means using the expansion you just found, not some other way that you might want to do it. It says hence means using what we just did in pi. Anyway, so other questions from this paper can be found in the playlist on the top right of the screen at the end of this video. Other questions from the topic of binomial expansion in the playlist at the bottom right here. You can subscribe to my channel by clicking on this link, and the video at the top here will show you how to use my channel to find what you might be looking for. Thank you for watching and see you soon.